everyone. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes while more people are hopping on. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Gabrielle Butter. I am a citizen of Cherokee Nation and Communications Associate for the Native American Agriculture Fund. We are grateful for your time today. Thank you for joining us for a review of the NAAF request for application for youth programming. Before we start our presentation, I would like to review a few housekeeping items. First, we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of this presentation. We have members of our team monitoring the questions as they come in through the Zoom chat box. To ensure we are able to communicate all information and make this accessible to those joining in by phone, we will read through all of the presentation slides and we will answer all of those questions at the end. In addition, the webinar will be recorded and posted to the NAAF website along with an option to download the PowerPoint presentation slides. We will also send a follow-up email to all registered webinar participants to view this recording. Today's presentation will be led by two members of our team, and here I would like to introduce Belton Moore, Associate Program Officer, and Cindy Farley, Program Officer. Go ahead and take it away, Cindy.
Hamitakepi, ampetu washte, iuha chante washte anapechi uzapi, washichu ya Cindy Farley imachiapi, Lakotia zintkala aloami imachiapi, wakba washte oyanke hamataha. Hello, my relatives, and good day. I greet you with a good heart and a handshake. My name is Cindy Farley, and my Lakota name is Songbird Woman. I come from the Cheyenne River Indian Reservation in north central South Dakota. A little bit about NAAF before we jump into the youth RFA overview. So NAAF, or the Native American Agriculture Fund, is a creation of the Cypre provision of the Keepseagle v. Vilsack settlement, which alleged discrimination to Native farmers and ranchers by the USDA in access to loan and loan servicing. We are a private charitable trust created in 2018, and we are a spend down trust, so we expire in 2038. Previously to being established, we had what was known as the fast track funding, which was an amount of funding that came out to various entities across the country to help support Native agriculture. Since we were established, we've had 3 RFA cycles, as well as a COVID relief fund cycle for our 2019 grantees at the beginning of the pandemic. You can find all of this on our website as well. Next slide. Our mission is to provide business assistance, agricultural education, technical support, and advocacy services to Native American farmers and ranchers to support and promote their continued engagement in agriculture. Next slide. So as I previously stated, we have 3 different rounds of current grantees so far. This is just a little bit of a snippet of where our grantees come from per state, how many are in each state. And then on the left and on the right, we have kind of a little pinpoint of where they're located in the country, as well as if they're regional, national, and then entity type. Next slide. I'll now hand it over to my colleague Belton Moore to provide the 2022 RFA Youth Overview.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Hello, everyone. I'm Belton Moore. I'm an Associate Program Officer with NAAF, and I'm also a member of the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina. It's good to be with you today. So we'll start with an overview of our eligible entity types. So we have 4 different eligible entity types per our trust agreement. They include 501c3 organizations, nonprofits, educational organizations, really anything from K-12 through higher ed, community development financial institutions, or CDFIs, including native CDFIs, and tribes and their instrumentalities. This includes both state and federally recognized tribes. So an important note on fiscal sponsorship. We encourage startup nonprofit organizations that have already applied for 501c3 status from the IRS, but haven't yet received that favorable determination to apply through a fiscal sponsor. And this fiscal sponsor can also provide important technical support for your proposed project activities. If you use a fiscal sponsor, they must be an eligible 501c3 organization, and they should follow the guidance in our fiscal sponsor information document, which is on our website. So just a little bit of an overview of the request for applications. We start by talking about allowable use of funds. So essentially what you can use these grant funds for. Then we move on to addressing access to capital. We'll talk about this a little bit more later in our webinar, but access to capital is a core issue with NAAF because the case that really started NAAF, the core issue was access to capital. So that's something really big for us. Cost sharing and matching funds. We do not require cost sharing or matching funds, which we hope will be good news for our potential applicants. Collaborators, cooperators, and leveraging. So you can read the RFA for more information on our stance on those issues. Then a limitation on indirect costs. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on in the webinar. Eligibility of previous grantees, unallowable use of funds, and the initial review on eligibility. So access to capital. As I mentioned, this is core here at NAAF because it was core to the Keep Siegel case. There is a conversation on access to capital by our CEO, Tony St. McLaughlin, on our website. And you can also find it in the application on Found It or on our website and in the different questions on our application. Applications that do not address access to capital will not be funded in 2022. So in your application, there will be a box that asks you, will you address access to capital? Please check yes, because if you check no, you will get a warning sign saying that your application is not eligible for funding. In addition to checking yes on the application, please make sure that we kind of see that throughout your application, that you're talking about how you're going to address access to capital. For us, this is really broad. We know that CDFIs obviously will be able to talk about addressing access to capital through loans and re-grants, but other organizations as well can talk about access to capital and the activities that you're doing to really increase access to capital for Native farmers and ranchers across the board. Now I'll turn it back over to Cindy to talk about our youth programming.
Thanks, Belton. So yeah, our youth programming. So like Belton said in the application, there's two separate applications. There's one for the general program or general funding, as well as the youth programming. So when you get into the Found It portal, which we'll go over later on in the webinar, you'll see two different sections and make sure it's youth. This year's available pool is 1 million. The minimum request is 20,000 and the maximum request is 40,000. The project types that we generally look for, but are definitely not, limited to, are hands-on food production, support for FFA, 4-H, or other youth groups, youth-led community projects, youth ag councils, scholarships, online youth ag activities, and COVID-19 response activities. We also have all of our past and current grantees, youth and general, located on our website. That have a little bit of a summary of what their project entails. If you guys need any inspiration or, you don't really know or have an idea, you can use that as, some inspiration. Next slide. We have a couple of notes for applicants. The first one we'll cover is if you are a Bureau of Indian Education or BIE supported or controlled school, NAAF is interested in investing in programs that provide information and guidance to Native youth interested in choosing food and ag as their future career choice, as well as specifically reaching out to Native students who attend these schools. Because BIE schools are part of the federal government and not one of the 4 eligible entity types, they are welcome to partner with an eligible entity to pursue funding. If the BIE school is tribally controlled or receiving federal grants or contracts, they may be eligible for funding as a tribal instrumentality, a 501c3 nonprofit, or educational organization, depending on the status. We encourage you to reach out if you need any clarification to either your school administration or your tribal administration. Next slide. Educational organization reminders. So our definition is pretty broad. It covers all of those under the IRS code, including K through 12 and post-secondary institutions such as tribal colleges and universities, Native American serving non-tribal institutions, and other institutions, but they must have a history and experience in serving Native farmers and ranchers. For further recommendations, if your project involves anything with the federally recognized tribes extension program or FERTEP, FERTEP involvement is required at universities with the agents, and they must have a significant participation in the project. Next slide. Tribal instrumentalities, state or federally recognized, can mean a lot of different things. Tribal governments have the latitude to determine which entities are instrumentalities of their governments. NAAF, we only need proper documentation of that status. If an organization wishes to be considered as an instrumentality of a tribal government, the organization must secure and submit an authorizing document from their tribal government to that specific effect. A statement from an outside or another organization other than the tribal government will not suffice for this purpose. So just make sure that it comes straight from the tribal government. Next slide. The last thing I'll talk about is a very important reminder for our tribal applicants. We require, with no exceptions, a limited waiver of sovereign immunity for the life and exact amount of the grant if you are awarded. We do have a required acknowledgement within our application that you acknowledge that you have notified your tribal leadership about your intent to apply. We also have a sample limited waiver located on our website. This is all required by our trust agreement, which is also on our website if you have any further questions. Next. And I'll hand it back over to Belton to wrap us up.
Thank you, Cindy. So now we'll talk a little bit about our evaluation criteria. So what happens after you submit your application? So we have a few different criteria that we'd like to talk about. The first is impact on access to capital. As we discussed earlier, it's the core to our work here at NAAF, and this carries a weight of 25%. Proposed results and outcomes also carry a weight of 25%. Farmer and rancher demand is 20%. So with this one, we're really trying to see if the project that you're proposing has demand among the native farmers and ranchers in your community. Team and organizational capacity and collaborators is 10%. We just want to learn more about the team that you're working with and really what they bring to the table. And also we want to know that your organization is capable of carrying out this grant, that you have the capacity. And then with collaborators, would like to see who you're working with outside of your organization in your community or in other communities to make this project a success. With evaluation for this part, 10%, we're referring to evaluation of the impacts of your project. So things like pre and post surveys, if you're doing a training, any of those kinds of things. If you're awarded a grant, we do ask that you submit reports. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on, but any kind of data that you're able to collect from your participants is always really helpful for us here at NAAF. And then lastly, innovation and replicability. We want to see that you're doing something new, that you're not just recreating the wheel, that this is something new to address an issue that the native farmers and ranchers might be seeing, and that it's also replicable. So if another community wants to do a similar project, that there's really that guidebook that you're creating in your community that they can follow later on. So anything that helps with that really goes a long way towards showing us that this is something that's going to help not only your community, but all native communities across Indian country. So our application review. We've been over most of this before. We'll cover it again. So outcome and results-based projects. We really want to see that you have concrete outcomes. In your application, you will be asked to give objectives. So please do be really thoughtful about those objectives and really kind of make those in-depth, and SMART goals are always great to use. We want to see what really are going to be the outcomes and the results of the work that you're doing to serve your community. Progress reporting and compliance. So if you are awarded a grant, you will be part of our compliance structure. And it really just consists of about quarterly reports, annual reports, and final reports, depending on how long your grant is. And so that is something we just kind of use it as our communication with grantees a lot of times. And we always read the reports really in depth and get back with you if we have questions. It's really just an opportunity for you to share the great work that you're doing in your community through the grant project. With the grantee meeting, you'll see this in the application. We do request that you allocate funds in your budget to send one person from your organization to a grantee meeting. These funds will just cover the travel for that person. So please keep in mind if you're depending on where you're at in the country, to allocate enough money. We're not sure where each grantee convening will be because they will move around most likely. So please just allocate enough funding depending on if you're in a more rural area with a smaller regional airport. Keep that in mind. This year, the grantee convening will be for current grantees, 2020 and 2021. So if you're awarded a 2022 grant, you will be attending the grantee tentatively scheduled for the fall of 2023. Cover letters, this really is just an opportunity for your leadership to let us know that they're committed to this project. The entire organization is committed and they're going to do their best to make it a success. The resume of key personnel, it's really just an opportunity for us to get to know the team a little bit more. We're reading these applications and we don't always get to talk to the applicants face to face. So this is an opportunity for us to get to know a little bit more about the background of you all and the experience and what you're bringing to the table and how you're going to make this project really impactful for your community. Budget and budget narrative. So the budget is, we have a template that we require that you use. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on, but it's an Excel sheet. And then also the narrative is a Word document that you'll create and then turn into a PDF. This really just goes line item by line item, telling us what you're going to spend the money on. If you have any questions about this, you can always reach out to us. Confidentiality and conflict of interest. So with confidentiality, we understand that you all are submitting documents that you expect will be held in confidence, and we're committed to that. Our Foundit system is very secure. It's tested frequently, and it's a system that several foundations use across the country. So please don't have any concerns about that. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we can put you in touch with our team at Foundit. And then with conflict of interest, we have a process for our staff reviewers, external reviewers, and our trustees to declare any conflicts of interest they may have with regards to any applicants. And lastly, unsuccessful applicants. If you do receive that email letting you know that your application was not funded this year, we give you an opportunity to meet with some of our staff to discuss some things that you might do going forward if you reapply to strengthen your application. So if you receive that email, make sure to look out for that link. And if you're interested, please do schedule a time with our team. All right, budget notes. So our indirect limit is 15%. Unfortunately, we are not able to allow any exceptions to this amount. You must follow our budget guidelines, which they're linked in the application. They're on the website as well. And you must use our required templates. These templates really help our staff because we're reviewing a lot of budgets, and to have the same template for each application is very helpful for us in the review process. They are required, so please do use those. And then we also ask that you abide by the request minimums and maximums listed in each category. They're different for most categories, so please do pay attention to that. The RFA has all of that information as well in the different questions in the application. So please do abide by that. You can be anywhere in between that minimum and that maximum. Please just don't go under and don't go over. And please make sure that your project is really in line with the amount of funds that you're requesting what you think you will reasonably need to carry out this project. So a few critical deadlines. This is the youth webinar. The youth RFA closes on May 18th at 11:59 p.m. So a little under a month from today. The general RFA, if you're applying for that as well, closes on June 1st. At 11:59 p.m. Central Time as well. So it's a 2-week gap. You are welcome to apply for both if you have youth and general projects in mind, but please do keep in mind the youth closes 2 weeks before. This is really to help us get ahead on reviewing youth applications and hopefully get that money out to you before the school year starts for any projects, the traditional school year. So if you have a youth project, please make sure to prioritize that. The application is quite a bit shorter than the general, so please make sure to get it in by that deadline. There is no opportunity to edit the application after your deadline, and it's a hard deadline because we have a really tight review process to get those funds out to you as soon as possible. So if you have any questions or any concerns about getting it in on time, please just try to make sure to submit it maybe a day or two in advance. So here we'll talk a little bit about our Foundit system and what you're going to see when you go to apply. So if you're a returning applicant, if you have a grant with us already, or if you've applied before, you will already have an account. So you can log in using your existing credentials, just your email address and your password. If you've forgotten your password, we have a handy button down here, forgot your password, and that'll send you an email to get that reset. But if you have any problems with that, please do reach out to us. If you are a new applicant, you must create a new account. It's really simple. There's a button down there beside log on, create new account. The arrow is pointing to it. So you just go there, you'll put in your information. It's really just your name, title, organization, address, things like that. It's really simple. So once you get that created, you'll land in our applicant dashboard. So this might look a little bit different depending on if you've applied before or not, if you have a current grant with us, but you'll just need to go to apply, and you'll click apply up here in the top left corner, and then you'll see these two options, and you may even see a few of our positions that are open, but these requests for applications are what you're going to be looking for. So the job positions, we invite you to share those and potentially apply as well, but we use our system for various different purposes. So if you're seeing that, that's why. You won't see Sandbox. This is our Sandbox site, so it won't have that part, but other than that, it should look exactly like this. And you'll go over to the right and click apply. And this is where you'll see the two different processes that we have, basically the two different applications for general and youth. Please make sure you're in the right one because the questions are a little bit different once you get into the project information. And then here, once you click the youth application, this is what you will see. You'll have your applicant information, your organization, and then you can start scrolling down and going through the application. So our application is branched, which means that it all depends on what you click. For the youth, it's pretty straightforward because any of the 4 eligible entity types can apply for youth funding. For general, please visit one of our webinars. Later on, we'll talk about those dates. But if you're applying for general, it's really important there because what you click depends on what questions you get later on, because the different funding types are different. So for this one, just please make sure that all the information that you're inputting is correct and double check that. If you're not seeing a question that you think you should see, please reach out to us and double check your application. All right, save the dates. So this is our second webinar. We have 3 more webinars for the 2022 RFA. The next one will be on Thursday, April 28th from 2 to 4 p.m. Central. If you want to join that one and you just have questions, you can join around 3 p.m., maybe a little bit earlier Central, and ask those questions. The next one is Thursday, May 12th, 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time, and then Thursday, May 26th, 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time. For this last webinar, we understand that it's past the youth deadline. So if you have any youth questions, please attend one of the next 2 webinars. And then for the May 26th, if you're still working on the general, that's really close to the deadline. So please come with any final questions you might have about the application then.
Before we jump into the questions and discussion, I just wanted to emphasize too that in the applicant portal, just be mindful and be sure that the person who is, creating this account and logging into it is the one who will get all of the information. So all of the emails and the updates and stuff. So just make sure that whoever you're wanting to be the point of contact for that grant application, who we can be in connection with, sending emails and responding to, just make sure that that's all settled too. So
yes, that is an excellent point. We use Foundit to communicate with our grantees, our applicants, really throughout the entire process until you're onboarded as a grantee. So, and even after then. So please do make sure the emails are working. And there's more information about collaborators. So if you have 2 or 3 different folks working on the application, they can also create accounts. That information is all on our website and in the RFA. So please keep that in mind. And especially if you have multiple people, make sure that someone clicks submit before the deadline. We know that folks might get confused on that of who exactly is going to submit. So please make sure that you have a designated person to click submit once all the information is in there. Because again, we have a hard deadline and we're not able to allow folks to edit their applications or submit them after the deadline. And lastly, we just have our contact information here. So any questions at all can go to grants@nativeamericanagriculturefund.org. It's pretty long email, but it's us, there's no other Native American Agriculture Fund. So won't get it confused with any other email. You can also call us at 479-445-6226. And so for this, you're gonna get a prompt and you can click that you want grants, information on grants, and it may go to a voicemail. If it does, just leave a voicemail and our team will get back to you as soon as possible. If you are from the media or you have any media related questions, you can email media@nativeamericanagriculturefund.org as well. And that is it for our webinar today. I think Gabby's going to lead us into Q&A.
Yes, we have a couple of questions here. The first one is, can you give more examples of access to capital when it comes to youth projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I said earlier, access to capital is really broad. And just a reminder, there is that video that Tony does talking about it for quite a few minutes. So that provides more information. But for youth projects, what's coming to mind is that a lot of folks, when they go to apply for a loan, so if you want to start a business and you're going to apply for a loan, you really need to be able to understand the financial statements, have a business plan, that kind of thing. So if you're working with youth, I know it depends on the age a lot, but maybe you could help them come up with with kind of an idea about a business that they want to start, and they can write a short business plan. Like I said, it depends on the age. Really, and we understand that too when we're reviewing applications, but really just getting them in the mindset of thinking about finances, about business, of record keeping is a huge one that helps folks when they go to apply for credit. So anything like that, I think, is really helpful. Cindy, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you kind of covered it.
Okay.
So next kind of connects to the things that you were saying beforehand, but when it comes to access to credit, if the farmers are between the ages of 6 and 15, are grantees able to view or frame credit as resources, even if it's not money or actually credit?
That's a good question. I guess I would ask what exactly we're referring to, when we say outside of money and credit, but we use access to capital to be broad and include things beyond just credit. It can include equity as well. So maybe when a person in their community, maybe an elder, wants to invest a little bit of money in their business to sell eggs or something like that. So that, is absolutely falls within access to capital. Really just thinking about, okay, I have this idea and I personally don't have enough resources to fund it all. So how am I going to go about getting that credit, getting that capital to really help grow my operation, to start my business? Just really getting them in that mindset. I'm not sure if that answers the question fully, but please, if you need any information more about that, please just email us and we'll get back to you.
I would also include, I don't want to say human capital, but, like capital in that sense, or even, equipment capital, different. It's very broad, like Belton said. So if you need any clarification, or if you have a specific kind of capital that you're thinking of, definitely reach out to us again, and we can help clarify that.
Yeah, and we encourage you to really go on our website and learn more about the history of the Keep Siegel case, and I think that will help folks understand a lot of the issues that they came up against, and really the challenges they face, discrimination by the USDA, and how we can help to make sure that things like that never happen again, starting with our youth, starting with the young generation.
All right, perfect. And I would like to note that in the chat box, there was a social capital is the thing that they pointed out instead of human capital.
Oh, yeah.
The next question is there a way to edit our organization info in our Found It account?
Yes. So it should be pretty straightforward in Found It. I'm not in there right now, so I can't walk you through it. I don't remember exactly how it will show up for you, but there is definitely a way to edit that information. And if you have any problems, just reach out to our team and we can help you get that fixed.
Yeah, if you're a current grantee, just reach out to your point of contact, whatever entity type that is, and we can help you get that figured out too.
All right, perfect. The next question is, in our location, most farmers do not usually sell their crops. Young farmers may not be planning to sell their crops or get into business. They often prefer to share harvest with relatives and community. What are your thoughts on how to encourage access to credit without encouraging business or sale of crops exactly?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our mission areas, as defined in the trust agreement, include business assistance. So that's something that we focus on a lot. As far as access to capital for maybe more community based operations, I think there's a recognition that you still do need capital to really fund those projects to feed your family and your community. But that's something we might have to get back with you more on
I
because, yeah, go ahead, Cindy.
One thing that and again, access to capital rather than credit, thinking of the access to or with the youth that you're talking about, the young farmers who don't really want to sell it, but getting into the buying of the seeds, or any supplies that you might need, that kind of capital, in order to help your crops grow, or take care of them. That could be seen as another example of access to capital with that doesn't kind of relate to the selling or the business of your crops, if that makes sense. I hope that is
Yep.
translating as I'm meaning it to.
Please reach out if you need any more information, and maybe we can hop on the phone and help discuss it a little bit more, or just explain it in an email.
Yeah, kind of like what Belton said too, the business planning of it. It doesn't necessarily have to include, the sale of your crops, but getting to where you can, if you don't have a seed bank, or if you need to acquire seeds or other supplies, or promotional stuff, if you need media or marketing supplies, that can also help you be like, hey, we're not going to sell these, but we have like a food or crop distribution date, or kind of any social media promotion, stuff like that is what kind of comes to mind. That doesn't include sales.
All right, perfect. The next question is, are youth farmers help manage and record the levels of our ancestral seed bank? Would that fall under record keeping?
I think certainly, yeah. That's very, very beneficial. So I would definitely include that information. Something else that goes along with access to capital is risk management. So risk management is very broad. I would encourage you to look into that, and see if you can include any discussion of that in your application as well, especially climate risk. And we do have a section in our general application that talks about climate resilience. But human risk, legal risk, any of those facets. So I think that is essentially, just making sure that you're keeping in mind all of those different risks and things that might happen to derail your organization, your production, but just helping farmers and ranchers, youth, prepare for those challenges that may come. But I think record keeping for the seeds is great.
Perfect. The next question is, we would like to submit a proposal to introduce our youth to agriculture and historical traditional foods production to help elders and other Native families. Would this be an allowable project?
Cindy, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So, we can't really say too much, but as long, like we've been saying throughout this entire webinar and a lot of our promotional stuff this year, is that we're getting back to the core and the heart of the case, of the Keeps Eagle case, and access to capital and that kind of thing. So if you can, connect it to that, it would definitely be an allowable project. We just try to emphasize that one of our biggest things that we're circling back around to is the access to capital component, because of how we were created. So as long as it kind of connects back to that, it would definitely be considered.
Thank you. Perfect. At this time, there doesn't seem to be any more questions, but we will wait a couple more minutes. Thank you all for attending today, but we'll wait just a few more minutes to see if there's any more questions that are going to be coming through. We have another question here. What is the definition of credit education for scholastic students?
Yeah, that's another really good question. So with that, we're really referring to scholastic students as students who are enrolled in a degree program, as opposed to a student who is maybe taking a one-off course through extension or something like that. Scholastic students really refers to students who are in a program to receive a degree or certificate, some kind of credential, really anything related to that.
Yes, K through 12 is included. You're welcome.
Yeah, these are great questions. Please keep them coming.
And again, if you have any, specific questions regarding like entity status or what that all includes, like Gabrielle said, that this will be on our website. We'll have the option of, downloading these slides, but this is also in our RFA 2022 Youth RFA Overview that is located on our website, and it goes through a lot of like finer details of any of the like the K through 12 questions or any of the entity types or specific pool funding and stuff like that.
And I'll mention too, so when you open that RFA, it is quite lengthy because there's a lot of information for us to cover. And we have the general and the youth. But if you're only interested in youth, you're only applying for youth, you can go to the table of contents and then click on youth. It's towards the end of the application. You'll still need to read all the information at the beginning about eligible entities and those kinds of things. But as far as the project-based information, you can click on that link and it'll take you down to the bottom to learn about our youth programming. And if you have a question and you're not sure about asking it in front of everyone else or don't want your name associated, I think there is an anonymous, a feature where you can ask a question anonymously too. So you should have that option. If not, you can message one of us directly in the chat and we'll see that too. But if we don't get any more questions, I think it's totally fine if you got to go hop off. Like we said, this is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website. We just want to make sure we stick around in case anyone logs on just for the Q&A portion and make sure we're here to answer their questions. But if you got to go, we completely understand. You all are busy folks.
Thank you for joining, everybody who's hopping off.
For those of you that are still on, has anyone started their application already or started looking at the questions on our website? Anything, I guess, keeping you from starting your application if you haven't already? We really want to make sure the process is as streamlined as possible. We know it can be pretty in-depth at times, and we've done our best to try and make sure that we're asking the questions in the best way possible and not making it too much of a burden on you all. But if there's anything we can do to improve, we're always open to feedback. And if you have any questions, you're kind of on the edge of applying or not applying and you are an eligible entity, please reach out to us. We'd love to discuss that with you and see if there's anything we can help clear up.
We have some more questions here. What is the performance period for the youth proposals?
Cindy, do you want to take that one?
So if I'm reading it right or understanding it right, you're asking about, I guess, the project length maybe. We do have 12, 18, and 24-month projects with the option, if needed, to do extensions. I hope that answers your question. 12, 18, and 24 months.
All right, and then another one. Since we have time, could you do a screen share and go over some important parts of the website? May spark some more questions.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Give me a second. Let me get set up for that. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, let's see if I can start sharing again.
Successful proposals are expected to be awarded late summer for youth. For the general fund, it'll be closer to the fall. Like Belton mentioned earlier, we have a tighter turnaround time for the youth proposals, just in case, like schools or universities want to get their funding for the academic year. So we try to do that a little bit quicker. So late summer is kind of the estimated time of notification.
All right, so here is our website. It's a beautiful website. Thank you to our communications team. So here is our general webinar that we've already done. It's pre-recorded. So if you want to watch this webinar and then come around the halfway mark for one of the next ones and ask a question about general or about youth, please feel free to do so. But the way you get to all the information about the RFA is right here. So you go to grants and then you go to 2022. So we'll open this. It is now open. So it's going to be open for another little while. So please do go ahead and start your applications. You can click apply here. So I'll just open this in a new tab. You'll go here. This is where you have the opportunity to either use your existing credentials or create a new account. Here you will see our RFA overview. So I'll just open this. This is what I meant when I talked about the table of contents. So you can come down to here, page 18, youth programming. You can go there and just look at that information. It really has a lot of the things we talked about already today. Preview questions. So here you can open up a preview of our youth question list. So as I mentioned earlier, our system uses branching, and so this question list, especially for the general, includes any potential question that you could get from our application. Please do not get scared. This one's 47 pages, but that's not what it's going to look like when you get into the application and start selecting the different entity types. This is just really any potential question. We want to make sure you have this information. So if you're unsure about applying and you really just want to see what the questions look like, please go ahead and look at this list first. And then after you make that decision that you're pretty sure you're going to apply, then you can make an account. That keeps you from going through the hassle of making an account. Well, it's not really a hassle, but going through that and having to come up with the password and everything. And it also helps us on our end because if we see that application in draft, we're going to be reaching out to you before the deadline, asking you to go ahead and submit your application. And then afterwards, we'll reach out to you with a survey to say, hey, why didn't you apply this year? Because we're really working hard to get in new applications this year. So if you're unsure or you might not be eligible, you can go ahead and use this question list. And so this has a lot of links to different application questions. Here is where the branching starts. So you'll have different eligibility uploads depending on your type. So this is a good way to just kind of get a sense for what it looks like. A lot of it's yes and no, a few uploads. We have included more information on our financial statements requirements this year. So if you have any questions about that, please do reach out. But there's a video or a few videos actually that you'll see. Hopefully that clears up any questions. But our best advice for this is to, if you're not in your finance office, maybe you work for a large tribal government. If you're not in the finance, accounting, business office, please reach out to them early on and let them know the requirements for this grant and be in contact with them to get these documents. So there's more financial information. I will let you all go through that in your own time. Here is, as I said earlier, where you can apply. It takes you straight to our Foundit website, our deadlines, our contact information. Anytime you can contact us, grants at NAAFAmericanAgricultureFund.org, or through our email, or sorry, our phone number, and just click that option to go to the grants team. Here we have just an intro, different information on eligibility. All of this is in our RFA, our funding areas, different downloads. So some of these documents will help guide you through. FAQs is a big one, and that's actually on this website as well. So a lot of these things, you're going to see them in multiple different places. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for you all to find the information. Sample budget narrative, limited waiver information if you're a tribal government, fiscal sponsor information, and then we have our Foundit application tutorial. So that is from Foundit, and that will help you guide you through the system.
I do want to interrupt real quick, Belton. We
Yep.
have another question. If we are an independent program of a larger organization, would you prefer the organization of us who will be doing the work or the legal name of the national 501c3?
Are you an independent program or the legal name of the national? Is the independent program? I think there's an option where you can put the legal name of the eligible entity to apply. That would be, the name you would apply under. But if it's, a different, like you said, independent program or different branch of that organization, it might, I think, right, Belton, there's an opportunity for that. And then for example, if it was a tribe and a tribal department, it would be, the tribe of whoever, and then the lower section, I'm not translating this very well, but that would be the main name. But then you have an opportunity to put which branch of that program it would be doing the work, like you said. So I think you can put both. For the application and eligibility purposes, I would put the name of the 501c3 and then distinguish yourself later on, if that makes sense.
Yep, there's a question that asks, can't remember exactly the way it's worded, but it's essentially the preferred name of how you want us to refer to your organization. So we'll have the documents, and if you're awarded your grant agreement and everything might say the larger organization, and then everything on our website and kind of our outward facing communications will refer to you as that smaller independent program.
I also want to throw in there too. So within our application, there are portions where you can type in responses like your objectives, or that's a bad example, not the objectives, those should be in detail. But, for some of the other portions where you can type in there, there is a maximum amount of a character limit. You do not need to fill that entire limit. It's a lot of characters. We just wanted to have enough space. So if you do have, a longer, narrative or whatever, it would fit. But as long as you can get your point or your project across, you do not need to do the max character limit. I just wanted to throw that out there too.
Yes, very good point. Just, as much information as you feel that you need to get your point across, and let us know what you're working on. As I said, unfortunately, we're not able to speak with everyone face to face and learn more about the applications. So as much information as you want to include within that character limit, but you definitely don't need to write it all if it's something that you think you can communicate in less words. Okay, webinars. So we're putting these links to the questions. And then if you want to register for any more, the registration link is down here. Deadlines again. please put these on your calendars and make sure if you're in a different time zone from Central that you're noting that it is Central time zone. And then we have all of our FAQs, and we will most likely be adding some of these questions to the FAQs. So thank you for helping us develop those. And they're broken into the different areas that you might come across. And there's our recording. That's pretty much our website for the 22 RFA as well, at least. As we mentioned earlier, information about our former grantees can be found here. So if you just want to peruse that and see what everybody else has been up to, as well as the former the previous RFAs. So 2021, you can see. But please do keep in mind, I'll say, if you're looking at previous years, please do keep in mind that the RFA itself changes. So these applications were funded under a previous RFA. This year, every year is a little bit different. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the different projects.
We have another question here. We are interested in building a food forest and or medicinal garden or a food garden. Could we consider the improved health of the soil, increased atmospheric carbon storage, perennial food sources, and or perennial medicine sources as capital?
That's a good question. Cindy, do you have any thoughts?
Let me read that again. Could we consider the improved health of the soil, increase? I would encourage you, like Belton said, to go look at the trust agreement and read a little bit more on NAAF to kind of gauge a little bit of the foundation of what is kind of on paper considered access to capital. But like I said before, if you can, word it and connect it to, make it make sense. And if that makes sense for your community, I definitely think it would be considered. But yeah, like I said, maybe take a look at that document, and how you write it is important as well. So
yeah, please do reach out to us, and we can get with our team, our leadership, and get you more information if you'd like on that issue. I see we still have quite a few folks with us, so we really appreciate you joining. Know you're really busy, but if you do have a question, you're just hesitant to ask, please send it to us. We'll get back to you.
I do have one more thing to add, and I know this has probably been brought up in our general webinar, but if anybody has missed that, or if you haven't looked at it yet, so eligible current grantees are eligible to apply every year, just as long as your new proposal is something, like a next phase or a next, like a addition onto the current grant project that you have, or if it's an entirely new project. I know that might have been a lingering question sometimes that we get during our open period. So just throwing that out there too. And I'm pretty sure it's talked about in the general, and it's also stated in all of our documents, the many documents that we have. But
yeah, with Foundant, there's an option. If you're reapplying, there's an option to use copy process. So there's more instructions on our website and in the application. But if you use that, please make sure that you go through and reread what you wrote last year and the boxes you checked. Make sure all that still applies. And then if it's a project that as Cindy said, you're reapplying, make sure the project is different, that it builds on your current project or what you applied for previously, and make sure that it fits within the guidelines of this year's RFA as well. It's not too different, but there are a few different sections. For general youth is mostly the same, but if you're doing general as well, there are a few different sections.
Here's another question. In regards to the question, is your primary office located in the community you intend to serve? Is this the community served for this specific project proposal? They have several office locations and their primary is located in a community we serve, but not the one served for this application. And they also have a secondary office located in where the proposal will be. So again, is primary office located in the community you intend to serve? Is this the community served for this specific project proposal?
I think you can specify, right? There's a portion at the end of, that question block about the community that you're, or where your office is in the community serving. But that's a good question because we do have different organizations that do have multiple offices like us. So
Yeah, I think for this one, when we say you intend to serve, and pretty much everything, anything word like that is talking about this NAAF project. So you can let us know, hey, our primary office, our headquarters is in a different community, but we do have an office in the community that we're intending to serve. And you can let us know, hey, the project leads for this proposal live in that community, or they work out of that office, or they visit there weekly, monthly. Any information like that just kind of helps us understand kind of where you're located, and if you're going to be having to travel far to do work like that. It's really just helps us get a better idea. I said, in lieu of being able to ask you these questions face to face, it really helps us to have the full picture. Lots of great questions there. Another thing I think the feedback we've gotten is the budget can be kind of tedious for some folks. So if you're new to applying for grants, or you've never created a budget before, please do let us know if there's anything that we can do to help. We want to make it as straightforward as possible. There's different areas in there where you can add line items, you can take away line items if you don't need them. So if there's any of the terminology that you don't understand and it's not explained well enough in the guidelines, just reach out to us. We're here to help as much as we can. And we understand that not everyone is working in Excel every day. And on the flip side, not everyone's writing project narratives every day either. So we want to make this as accessible for everyone as possible.
and I think we also, do we have a grant writing 101 webinar as well on our website, Belton?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not sure. Yeah.
On our resources page, we do too. So we have another question.
Yes. So the question is, I am not familiar with this program at all. In what ways would a native CDFI best distribute these funds in the event we applied for funds and were approved? Can you give some examples of what some other CDFIs have done with these funds to best help their community?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And again, that's really broad. Just to touch on a couple of things, like historically, since we've been established, one of the biggest things that we emphasize is we do not grant to individuals. We can only grant to the eligible entities laid out in our trust agreement. But the closest way we can get to serving our individual producers is through CDFIs. For youth, for examples, we've had some people do, like Belton said, financial literacy kind of courses, or a business plan project, or different workshops to kind of help out with that. They also do some small loans for younger producers looking to start herds, or start a farm operation, or just get their foot wet in this industry. They also have done scholarships for Native students to who are pursuing ag-related degrees. They've done community, or just regular loans, some disaster relief loans, for those of us in the drought, in the big drought in the Great Plains, hay assistance, stuff like that. So it's really broad. And And again, we have all of our current and past projects on our website with little kind of snippets of what their grant overview was. So you can definitely look on that for some more ideas. You're welcome.
Another question here is, how do you define native-led? For example, a program staff are 100% Indigenous, but our larger org's board of directors is not.
Yeah, so there are opportunities in the application for you to kind of explain that. So native led is pretty broad, and we are looking at staff leadership as well as the board. So please just note that. Obviously, your program is led in part by native folks, indigenous folks. So just let us know that, and you can even go and put in people's tribal affiliations and their role in the organization and the project. And that's a good way to let us know that information.
Really good questions.
Yeah, for the native CDFI, would love to have you reach out to us. We're trying to put together resources for CDFIs that haven't done much ag lending in the past, but are looking to get into that. So please reach out to us. Maybe we can connect you with some of our current grantees if you're not already in contact with them, and they can help you with that piece. We know it's a pretty big undertaking at times to start a new program within a CDFI, especially if you don't have a lot of capacity already. But we believe it's something that is very beneficial, and it's a huge opportunity for Indian country. CDFIs are really core to our work because they're able to, as Cindy said, lend out the funds or at times re-grant them or do equity bundles. So we really want to talk to you and see if there's anything we can do to help you get into ag lending. And if you're in a community that doesn't really have much agriculture already, or had it in the past and have kind of gotten away from that, something could include webinars for your community to really learn about the process of applying for a loan and really kind of train them up. We know it's not as simple as, you just get an idea and the next day you walk into a CDFI and apply for a loan to start a business or to buy land or something. So anything that really contributes to that process with the eventual goal of them being able to access capital, we're definitely interested in hearing about that. Any more questions? We still have quite a few folks with us. We really appreciate your time.
One thing I also wanted to throw out there that I know we kind of covered a little bit was like partnerships. So one of the things that partners and collaborators, and this is on our general webinar and as well as our website as well, but it's really nice to see the collaboration and partnerships from other tribes and organizations in the community, in the same community. That's a really cool thing to make sure that we can see like it's being widespread, or that it's a real community act or a community led project. So just throwing that out there about connecting with the different entities in your communities to make as big of an impact as you can, because that's always a good thing.
I will say with found it to another note is, especially if you're applying for general, youth hopefully won't be as big of an issue, but for general, there are quite a few questions and a lot of branching, pretty complicated on our side with the system. So if it's a little bit slow, please just give it time, especially taking into consideration your internet access. We know broadband is a huge issue across Indian country. So if you're having issues with things not loading after a few minutes, definitely give us a call or email us. But if it's taking just a little while, please be patient with our system.
And on that note, that's another thing why we encourage you to apply before the deadline. A lot of people apply the day of, and sometimes it gets really jam-packed and a little bit slow. So just to ensure that you have your application submitted, we really encourage you to do that before the deadline. So. Cool. Well, I don't think we have any more questions. Stop me if you do, but I think we could probably start wrapping up.
Yeah, Gabby, it's all, if you think we're good, please do. If you have any questions, you can even raise your hand, and maybe we could just unmute you, or however Gabby wants to run it, and just message us any last minute questions.
Bueller, just kidding. Anybody get that reference?
And don't forget about the next webinars too. 3 more webinars, and youth questions are welcome at all of those. And like I said, you can apply for both. So please, if you serve all ages, please do keep that in mind.
Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat box, and I don't see any hands raised, so I think we're good to go. Thank you all for coming here today. We really appreciate all of the time, all of the really excellent questions. So I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.